A man made friends with a bear in the woods over the years. Although they were at ease with one another, they maintained their distance out of respect for one another. Then, unforeseen circumstances completely upended both of their worlds. The bear's next action was absolutely unimaginable. The landscape outside Jeff's hut was shrouded in a spooky calm, one fateful night without a moon. It was suddenly broken by an odd sound coming from near his porch. Jeff was awakened by its banshee-like wail. He struggled for a flashlight, his heart thumping in his chest. He looked out the window, but there was nothing there. The sound then resurfaced, and this time he was certain it was coming from his porch. He went cautiously to the door of the cottage. As he pulled the door open, his pulse pounded, the hinges groaned, and his breath lingered in the cold air. He had never seen anything like what he saw there, just across the threshold. At his front steps stood a giant female bear, her obsidian eyes shining with a strange intelligence. Mother bears were known to be fiercely protective of their children, so Jeff recognized the risk when he saw her two cubs nearby. Jeff was as familiar with the bear and her young as one could be with the untamed and formidable creature that inhabits the forest adjacent to their cottage. His nearest neighbors were the bear family. The matriarch, a gigantic she-bear, and her two playful cubs had all blended in well with Jeff's everyday life. He had left the bustling city to live alone in a lonely cottage on the edge of the woods. Jeff had developed a morning routine that he shared with the bears. With a fishing rod in hand, he would descend to the serene stream that meandered through his land, treading softly on the damp grass and always keeping an eye out. The bears would emerge from their burrow to drink and occasionally even go fishing with Jeff. The encounter between man and beast in the tranquil embrace of nature resembled a quiet dance of respect. Amidst the soft waters and rustling foliage, a silent understanding developed, a pledge to coexist quietly in this tranquil region of the globe. However, Jeff's breathing became shallow and his pulse raced as he now had to deal with a large and strong beast at his door. An icy grip tightened around his chest as panic and terror whirled inside him. He was on the verge of insane fear for a second. Then he noticed that a nasty piece of metal wire had entangled one of the cub's feet. He could see that it was slicing deeply into the cub's paw's delicate skin in the dim light. Fear was overcome by instinct. Jeff had to do something, though neither of them was really sure what to do next. He felt deep down that the mother bear had come to ask for his assistance. Jeff crept forward with slow, methodical care, each step bringing his senses to life. The watchful mother's black eyes were fixed on him like a steel trap, and he could feel them. Jeff brought the cub closer to him and held it in his arms. The mother bear took no action to stop it. As Jeff struggled to remove the cub's foot from the vicious trap, tears streamed down his face. Jeff's heart hurt with every agonized cry as the cub's loud cries of suffering pierced the darkness. The mother bear finally sprang up on her hind legs as the snare broke and the imprisoned youngster was freed. She guided her cubs back into the dark forest behind Jeff's cabin, with a deep comprehension that went beyond the confines of their respective worlds. Jeff stood for a time, observing as their presence vanished like a dream into the dark night. Even the fact that all of this had actually occurred was uncertain to him. The calm routine of life returned to Jeff's cottage in the woods after that night that will never be forgotten. It was like a cool breeze following a terrifying storm for a few days. A constant reminder of the delicate balance that controlled their cohabitation was the recollection of the enormous bear and her pups on his doorstep. Every morning, Jeff walked down to the well-known creek with his fishing rod in hand as the sun rose and painted the surroundings in shades of amber and gold. Even though they were far away, the mother bear and her cubs were always there to keep him company. Jeff and the mother bear were in the same room during those peaceful mornings. Perhaps because of his act of compassion and the mother bear's deed of trust, he could swear that the unwritten agreement between them was much stronger today. He wasn't sure whether this was his imagination. Once enigmatic neighbors, the bears have grown to be well-known companions. Their presence, in his opinion, was evidence of the unbreakable relationship that was created that terrible night. They recognized Jeff's right to coexist in the holy area of the woods, since he had gained their confidence and shown respect for their magnificent environment. A year passed like leaves on a merciless stream, and Jeff's lonely sanctuary was unaffected. But his life was about to take a terrifying turn, and fate has a horrible sense of timing. The peaceful community has been invaded by a group of criminal motorcycle riders. In their aftermath, there was chaos and terror due to their chaotic anarchy. Their unrestrained criminal activity and careless drunkenness cast a long, ominous shadow over the formerly peaceful neighborhood. The chance of escape their fury was a tenuous thread for Jeff, who resided on the outskirts of the now battered town. Then the gang arrived to Jeff's cabin on a night that seemed to have been plucked from the deepest recesses of his dreams. They resembled carrion-eating vultures. In unholy chaos, their bikes roared. He knew their coming was a sign of impending disaster as he fought into his jeans. They hammered on his door, and the sound of their fists reverberated over the surrounding woods. They were aggressive and intoxicated. Jeff was chilled to his core by the humanless laughter that filled the air. He looked into the eyes of wickedness once he had plucked up the guts to open his door. His eyes glinted with the malicious thrill of agony as the ominous group of dark beings glared at him. They pushed their way inside after that. Like sharp blades, their taunts and insults cut through the quiet of his once holy haven. They were causing wounds that would permanently tarnish the peaceful landscape of his seclusion without his knowledge or concern. Jeff's determination faltered as he stood there, oppressed by the intimidation of the motorcyclists. He was aware that he was going to die, or at least sustain severe physical harm. These folks would not be kind to him. They were like beasts. Then, in the most unexpected way, redemption showed up. Fueled by primordial rage, the enormous female bear burst through the front door with a thunderous smash that split the sky like thunder. Her angry shout, a crescendo of unadulterated force, sent chilling shivers down the motorcyclists' spines and stopped their derisive laughing in its tracks. The cubs followed pace beside her, their young innocence suddenly lost in the midst of their mother's rage. The gang's confidence fell apart like a stale cake. Terrified cries echoed around the cabin, replacing their boisterous jeers. Abandoning all pretense of their previous brutality, they struggled and clawed in an attempt to escape the bear's rage. The bear refused to back down. She defended her new ally like a natural force. It was only a matter of seconds before the gang fled in terror. Motorcycles screamed to life before vanishing into the darkness. The unwritten agreement made in the furnace of hardship included the mother bear's devotion to Jeff, the guy who had once rescued her baby from a terrible trap. Following this terrifying experience, the cabin fell into a tight but appreciative stillness. The relationship between humans and bears grew even closer after that day. A deep awareness of the value of their peaceful living in this harsh wilderness led to the formation of an unbreakable partnership. What a wonderful tale of man and bear respecting one another. We would love to hear your tale if you have ever come across a wild animal that gave you permission to enter its habitat only because you were respectful enough. Tell us about it in the comment section.